you only have a few days left to go down and see the the holiday decorations at the historic Davenport Hotel.
But we all know the hotel is beautiful to look at year-round. That's thanks in large part to a man whose work you've seen, but whose name you might not know. Melissa Luck introduces us to the man behind the beauty of the Davenport Hotel.
Well, I saw all this ornamentation, and it all seemed like it was symbolic.
If the walls of the Davenport Hotel could talk,
A cultural repository.
it might be Melville Holmes' voice that you hear.
And it's more open. And what I thought,
A man who has seen every inch of this place,
you can see what's
even at its worst.
what we have to go by on the ceiling, and then we have to use these photos. It was in pretty rough shape.
When Melville first saw the Davenport in the late 1990s, what was once Louis Davenport's Grand Hotel was in shambles. By the time Walt and Karen Worthy bought it, it had sat empty for decades. But beneath the dust and boarded up skylights and layers of paint, Melville saw promise.
I wrote a letter to the editor, which was published, that the restoration of the Davenport Hotel is a thing intrinsically worth doing.
And so they did in spectacular fashion. Melville was hired as the aesthetic director of the renovation. A traditional fine artist and master of old world techniques, he was the perfect man for this job.
And that was me working up there.
Now his fingerprints are everywhere, and every inch of this place has a story to match.
Crawled in through that balcony there.
In the famed Hall of Doges, for example, it wasn't restoration, but a complete redo. This room, Spokane's first grand ballroom, was lifted out during renovation and kept in a box. When it was time to put it back together, it needed Melville to bring it back to life.
I had to repaint all of that main stuff.
Like completely repaint it?
Yeah, I just painted it over. This was not art conservation where you do it with a Q-tip.
Yeah.
No way.
You just did it again. Downstairs, the original hotel dining room is now the Isabella Ballroom, with Melville's touch and a special vision.
Janice gave me the idea of use the color of the floor built off of that.
His wife Janice gave Melville the idea to transform this room to what you see today, watched over by a woman who's been here since the beginning.
The portrait was in this spot always?
Yeah, always.
Melville's work brought this painting back to life, its true origin unknown. Once damaged by dirt, poor attempts at restoration, and the party scene of the 1920s.
When I was cleaning it, I filled the holes with purportedly aiming champagne corks at it.
Champagne once again flows here in the Isabella, a popular place for parties, weddings, and celebration, just as Louis Davenport intended. Upstairs from the Isabella, the Marie Antoinette, another grand ballroom, where Melville and Janice faced their biggest design challenge. The floors are original. The chandeliers have hung since 1914. But the rest of this room, well, it needed work.
Everything was painted white. I call them salmon red ceilings. It was terrible.
Melville said Janice had the vision to transform the terrible into this, pure elegance.
It had to be completely repainted. And this is a very complicated paint finish that only I know how to do.
But the day after Christmas, the day work began on this room of the hotel, Melville came home from the Davenport and found Janice struggling.
It wasn't cancer, it wasn't a stroke, it wasn't a heart attack. It was a deep brain hemorrhage.
Janice never got to see this, but Melville made sure she is part of its legacy.
So that's the portrait of Janice. I did that in 1997.
What better place to honor her vision?
Nobody talks about holiness, and she had that about hippie.
And it's not just here. Janice is in the lobby too, right off the new bar, immortalized in a Davenport ballroom. It's just that kind of place where if you take the time to look closely enough, you'll see history around every corner.
Sword and compass.
Melville and his wife Kathy are now working on a book about all of this. Not his work here, but the iconography and symbolism revealed in its restoration.
This face, Bishop Fonseca.
Living history, tiny details, a love story, and a bridge between generations nestled in the walls, where every space reveals something of our past, thanks to people like Melville still alive to tell it.
Feats that were accomplished are marvelous to me.
I'm Melissa Luck, 4 News Now.